Good evening, Board, fellow citizens of Prince William County. My name is Kenny Boddye. I live in the Occoquan Magisterial District, and my address is on record. I've lived in the South for over 8 years now, nearly 1/3 of my entire life and the majority of my adult life. 8 years ago, I moved to Florida, and it wasn't long after that when I first encountered overt relics of the Confederacy without any historical context. I recall stopping at a gas station in St. Petersburg, Florida, to ask for directions, and at that time, a large pickup truck pulled in. Standing tall in the truck bed was a huge Confederate flag, and although the driver did not see me initially, I immediately felt uncomfortable and unsafe. I immediately got back into my car and made sure that the driver could not see me. Some may call this reaction premature and overly sensitive, but I tell you that story because that is exactly how many people of color feel who did not grow up with such blatant celebrations of the Confederacy in their daily lives. Even those who are not of slave descent, or those who are not even from communities of color, have told me that when they first moved here from other places, they were shocked at having a highway named after Jefferson Davis, and that there were so many Confederate statues in our Commonwealth. At this point, many of you are probably having the knee-jerk response, well, those folks aren't from Virginia. They don't understand our heritage. Some of the folks I refer to are from other southern states. The fact that people who come from North Carolina feel that Virginia has an exorbitant amount of celebrations of the Confederacy should give everyone in this room pause. It is high time that our community came together and had dialogue about this issue. And it's a first step in that dialogue that should be a strong message from this very county government that they condemn white supremacy in all of its forms. This goes well beyond just the overt forms of hatred exhibited by neo-Nazis and Klansmen marching through the streets of Charlottesville. This should extend to the more subtle, more passive forms of racism and white supremacy that permeate our daily lives. The thought that folks are outraged when we simply just talk about removing Confederate statues and putting them in museums. But when somehow they're silent, when we talk about the omissions of people of color and women from their contributions in history, that should give people pause. James Armistead and Barbara Johns are just as much a part of Virginian history, if not more, than Jefferson Davis or Robert E. Lee. Yet we hardly ever hear them talked about in history books or celebrated across our Commonwealth. They don't have nearly as many statues, roads, fire stations, or schools as in any of those other Confederate generals, and no one seems to be outraged about that. Well, now we are. In my view, we should not be in the business of romanticizing people who are willing to give up their lives and the lives of others for the right to hold other people as property.
Thank you very much,
So I hope
Mr.
you'll
Boddye.
consider this resolution.
Mr. Edmund?